A few things to remember while we consider the Articles of Confederation government. The first is that we had just fought a revolution against a king and a very powerful centralized government in Parliament. And while the constitutional monarchy is something that we're going to base some of our ideas on, it wasn't really well received by the American public. We're not at the point yet where we're interested in federalism. That comes with the Constitution about 8, 9 years later. Um, Federalism is the sharing of power among national, state, and local branches. But at this point, the states wanted to have all the control, so we're not there. There was a lot of concern as the federal government couldn't pay off its debts. There was a fear of just the federal government in general. There was actually a society called the Society of Cincinnatus, which was a group of old army officers that was getting together and actually threatened a coup on the new federal government, central government, not federal. It took George Washington intervening himself to put down this particular coup. What we need to remember about this period is that we're moving from a time of revolution or change to one that's more conservative, meaning that they wanted to preserve the gains of the revolution. The Declaration of Independence is very revolutionary, but when we look at the Constitution, it's very conservative in the sense that it wants to preserve the status quo. Now, before we get to the Constitution, we need to understand the Articles of Confederation so that we can understand why the Constitution really came about. The Articles of Confederation really had one branch, not the three that we're familiar with in the Constitution. It really was simply a one-house legislature that had all of the powers within the Articles of Confederation. That being said, it was just a loose alliance of 13 states. So they were only united in theory, and this Congress didn't really have any power. Now, remember, there's no national executive branch, there's no president, there's no judiciary or court system. State legislatures appointed members to the Congress that wasn't voted on by an electoral body. Each state got one vote regardless of size. So little Rhode Island with 68,000 people had the same amount as Virginia that had a few million. The Confederation Congress could not force the states to pay any taxes, which means that they could call an army, but had really no money to pay for an army. They could regulate trade, but they really didn't have the power to enforce the laws to regulate trade. And when you consider the fact that the states didn't voluntarily pay any money to support this government, the Confederation government ran up huge budget deficits every year of its existence. So we're starting with a Confederation Congress that was a loose alliance of 13 states that each wanted to preserve their own sovereignty, and this is what happened. This is what's going to lead to the change in the Constitution.